Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. Those with ties to the wheat industry spent some time this week really studying the condition of this year's crop. For more, we take you to Oklahoma City for the 115th annual meeting of the Oklahoma Grain and Feed Association.
And the third yield per acre is really down.
We represent the interests of the state's grain and feed industry. And at this meeting this year, we had presentations on the market outlook and on OSHA and EPA regulations that are coming down upon the grain and feed industry. And of course, part of our meeting too is the annual Oklahoma wheat crop tour, where scouts go out and evaluate the crop, and then we come up with a guesstimate of what the crop's going to be for the year.
And that is why we are here, to listen to these presentations from Oklahoma Cooperative Extension staff and grain elevator operators. Gary Strickland is the Extension Director in Jackson County.
We know several of our acres are already gone. There's no question of that. Yield projections are easily cut in half per acre down in our area. The number of acres that we will harvest is a moving target right now because we don't know what will happen in May. If we get some moisture, even some of our acres at reduced yields could still cut out there. However, if we do not get moisture in May, and we get which we will get our hot winds down there, that's typical for us, then without any moisture, then the remainder of our crop heads downhill really quick.
This year's compiled estimate, 85 million bushels. That's down 45% from 154 million bushels last year.
It determines where the amount of grain that's going to be harvested in the state, what we can expect, and we look at what Kansas, their crop tour is going on right now also, and so we compile all that information and try to take a educated position on what we're going to do with the crop when we receive it.
And this year, we expect to see that crop coming out of the field later than usual.
Last year, we were harvesting canola on May 8th. We harvested wheat on May 15th. And here we're the 1st of May and we're barely even headed out. So we're looking at a June 15th possibly harvest date for the wheat.
Kim Anderson, our grain marketing specialist, joins us now. Kim, you've been at this meeting. What kind of things have you learned this year?
Well, I think I learned that the crop is probably significantly smaller than I earlier anticipated. We talked last week, the week before, I was looking at the crop to be around 105 million bushels. It looks like it's going to be smaller than that.
Okay. Let's talk now about prices. What kind of things are going on this week?
Well, if the crop is as small as they're predicting today, then I think I've been low on my prices. You can go back last fall, I was talking about $7.75 on mid-June price in Oklahoma. Recently, I've been down around $7. I think if they're correct on the size of this crop, plus I've heard some people from the Texas area, their wheat crop is maybe even smaller than ours on a percentage basis. The Kansas wheat tour, that's coming in relatively low. I think we're going to have to raise that price up to at least $7.50, if not $7.75 for a mid-June price. But right now, the market's probably offering around $7.40.
Okay, so for harvest delivery, that's what you're looking at?
Well, right now, if you look at the Kansas City Board of Trade July contract, it's around $7.80, somewhere in that vicinity. The elevators are offering about 40 cents below that, and that'll get you in around $7.40. Now, the one thing we probably know with certainty is that will not be the price in June.
That's the one thing you know, right?
Yes.
With all this in mind, what do producers need to think about in terms of setting up those marketing plans?
Well, we've got a tremendous amount of uncertainties out there. The weather's going to determine how much wheat we put in the bin in June, and that's going to determine our price. I think if you'll look at the back over history, our prices averaged about the last 5 years $6.42. If we get a price coming in around $7.75 up near $8, I think they need to set a strategy of selling more at harvest. If it comes in around that $7 or $6.50 level, then I think they can look at storage more. But set them a benchmark, and then if the price is above that, sell more. If it's not, sell less. and the old strategy, a third and a third and a third. But right now is the time for the producers to start thinking about different ways they're going to sell this crop.
Okay, very good. Kim Anderson, our grain marketing specialist. We'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. April followed on the heels of March by being cooler than normal. Compared to the average April air temperature for Oklahoma Mesonet sites over the last decade, April this year came in between 5 to 8 degrees below average, northwest of a line from Ardmore to McAllister to Tahlequah. 5 to 8 degrees is a significant departure for a monthly average. April followed a cool March this year, with the majority of March's monthly average air temperatures 4 to 6 degrees below the Mesonet average for the last decade. In 2012, winter crops commonly matured 2 weeks earlier than usual. April in 2012 came in with most of the state 3 to 4 degrees warmer than average. March in 2012 was even warmer, with monthly averages 5 to 8 degrees higher for most of Oklahoma. So the level of spring warmth in 2012 is being followed by a similar level of coolness this spring in 2013. What can we expect in May? It looks like spring's cooler weather trend continues. We have an increased chance of below normal temperatures for the month of May. Hopefully, while cooler, the freezing temperatures are over. Cooler temperatures will delay harvest of wheat and canola, but that's not all bad. Cooler temperatures means less stress and could help bump up wheat and canola yields. April's rainfall followed the trend of March this year, with higher amounts across central parts of the state. The rainfall map for April clearly shows a band of above average rainfall, with rainfall amounts of over 6 inches in the reddish, purple, and bright purple colored areas. Orange colored areas had over 4 inches. The brown areas on our map received 3 inches or more. Chickasha recorded the highest rainfall total at 10 and 58/100 inches. Shawnee also had over 10 inches of rain in April. Unfortunately for those in far western locations and in the Panhandle, April was another month of low rainfall. Boise City recorded no more than a spit of water with only 0.12 of an inch. The variation in rainfall really shows up on April's percent of normal rainfall map. The blue areas received close to twice their normal rainfall for April. The green areas in central and eastern Oklahoma received close to 100% of normal rainfall. Those red and bright orange areas came in at only 40% or less of normal. The drought map released May 1st shows minor improvement. Unfortunately, there just hasn't been enough rain in western Oklahoma to push most of the areas in extreme or exceptional drought out of those categories. There's no clear rainfall trend for May precipitation in Oklahoma. Hopefully those areas that came up short again in April will finally get an extra dose of rain in May. Thanks for joining us. We hope you'll be with us again soon for another Mesonet Weather Report.
Now for a discussion on adding value to your beef herd, we turn to Oklahoma Cooperative Extension's Gant Maurer.
Gant, let's start today talking about culled cows, and they can be a really big part of what a lot of ranchers are doing.
Yeah, Austin, it's important to remember that culled cow market can make up 10 to 20% of that value of that cow herd in any given year. Also, through different management practices, we can increase the value of those culled cows anywhere from 25 to 45% for those culled cows.
All right, let's talk about some of those things you can do. What kind of things do we do? Is it just start by holding on to them a little longer?
Yeah, we can. The 3 most important things we can do is add weight gain to those cows. We can improve the quality of those cows, and then we also need to look at traditionally the seasonal price pattern when we go to market those cows.
All right, let's break those down. Let's talk about how you add some weight to these things.
Yeah, first of all, whenever we wean those calves off that cow, we may take that cow directly to market, and that's the lowest body condition score and the lowest weight that cow will see all all year long. And so if we have the ability, we could retain that cow, feed her a little bit of green grass in the springtime, maybe feed her some sort of supplement, and add that weight back to that cow. Also, whenever we do that, we can increase the quality or body condition score of that cow. And we may take that cow from a utility cow in terms of the marketing price, of the marketing price structure, and increase her to a commercial cow and add value that way.
Very good. Now, what does that do for the seasonal time as far as when you want to be selling the cow?
Absolutely. Like I said, traditionally that cow is worth the most to us through late spring and early summer. So again, if we can retain that cow, if we wean a fall calf off that cow, say in late spring, if we can keep her on some grass and add some weight to her, we can hit that increase in cow value through that spring and summertime. So one thing to also think about, Austin, if we wean a spring cow in October, if we can keep her back through the winter time, and if she's reproductively sound and we have to cull her for some other reasons, we can breed her back and maybe add some value that way. But again, we don't want to pass our problems on to the next producer if there is an issue reproductively.
All right, now that's all well and good in a nice year, but now in a drought year, like this year again, if it dries up on us, what does that mean for producers?
You know, we need to look at this scenario with each individual producer, and if we don't have the grass or we don't have the resources to maintain that cow, then we need to eliminate that cow from the herd almost immediately, because it is going to be relatively expensive in terms of high grain prices and high hay prices. But the one thing we need to think about, if we keep that cow around, we may be able to add value to that cow anywhere between 50 to 70 cents per pound of gain, and we may also be able to do that. The value of that gain on that cow will be anywhere from $1.25 to $1.50. So again, each scenario is different, and we need to look at those scenarios individually.
Now, if a guy does need to cull out the herd a little bit, you know, things are getting dry again, what about bred cows? Are they an option?
You know, absolutely. If we're looking at our cow herd and we need to eliminate some cows from that herd, say right now, we could pull that calf off, and if that cow is bred, go ahead and market her on down the road. And we can add value to that cow anywhere from 20 to 30%, as opposed to just a slaughter type cow. So an excellent scenario if we need to eliminate and cull down that cow herd in terms of drought conditions.
All right, good information as always. Gant Maurer, value-added beef specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Continuing our conversation now on cattle, Daryl Peel, our livestock marketing specialist, joins us now. Daryl, we heard Gant talking about culling cattle. I understand slaughter rates are up.
You know, beef cow slaughter, we would expect it to be down. It depends on whether we're rebuilding the herd or not. But in fact, in the last 5 weeks, beef cow slaughter has actually been above year-ago levels. The average over that time period has been about 11% up. And so that makes the year-to-date total down less than 3% at this point. And so, that suggests that we are, in fact, still liquidating some cows here in the short run. I think the long, cold winter has had its effects, and folks have had to go ahead and sell some extra cows this spring.
Okay. With that in mind, what does that mean for those producers trying to rebuild the herd?
Well, there will be some folks trying to rebuild, but I think what this suggests is that as an industry, it may have already undermined any chance we have for herd rebuilding on an annual basis. If it warms up now, we have moderated the drought conditions at least somewhat. I would expect that we will, go back into kind of heifer retention and reduced cow slaughter mode. I'm watching this cow slaughter number very closely on a week-to-week basis, but at this point, we may have already sold enough extra cows to really undermine that. So, I think we're within a couple weeks away of being able to say that we probably will see some additional net liquidation in the beef cow herd this year. And so it's a number we're watching very closely to see what it means for our prospects this year.
Okay, as you continue to watch that, what else is going on in the markets?
Well, the one thing we've seen in the last week or so has been a significant rebound again in boxed beef prices. Maybe demand is kicking back in a little bit. And again, weather has a lot to do with that. It's been a cold, wet spring. We haven't seen the seasonal increase in demand that usually these warm weather and folks getting out and doing outdoor activities and grilling meats and so forth. I think we're seeing a little bit of buying right now in anticipation of the Memorial Day weekend. We weren't sure how strong that was going to be, and we still don't know, but at least we're seeing a little increase in that boxed beef market. If we follow through and have a good Memorial Day weekend, that'll be a good sign in terms of getting beef demand back on track for a strong summer season.
Okay, and then how about feeder cattle markets?
You know, the boxed beef had gone up, fed cattle had gone up with them. Feeder cattle markets are still lagging a little bit. Feeder cattle markets have been really weak for the last couple of months. You know, we still have margin issues at the feedlot level in terms of what they can afford to pay. The decrease in feeder cattle prices has really helped that. And the other thing we're watching right now, of course, is corn market conditions. All eyes are on the next corn crop. We're watching these planting conditions right now. And so that's going to be the name of the game here. Feeder markets, I think, will recover a little bit. We've probably bottomed, but the ability for them to recover is really going to depend as much as anything on what the prospects for the corn market are here in the next 2 months or so.
Okay, great information. Daryl Peel, we'll see you again soon.
Artificial insemination is a management tool that's been around for many years. There are commercial operations that do artificial insemination, and certainly a very high percentage of the purebred beef cattle industry depends on artificial insemination to improve the genetics of their herds. Producers that are using artificial insemination for the very first time need to have realistic expectations of what they can look for as the potential outcome of the first breeding season that they ever try artificial insemination. You know, there's a tendency to think, well, if I spend the money for estrus synchronization products, spend more money with buying semen and perhaps some of the equipment for artificial insemination, that I should get 100% of them bred AI. Well, quite frankly, the biology of the system just doesn't allow for perfection in very many instances. More likely, what's going to happen, if you have a set of cows that you're about to breed AI, as you start that breeding season, about 80% of them will be cycling and ready to respond to the estrus synchronization or be in standing heat when you go out to observe them. There will be some of those other cows that perhaps are too short in terms of the number of days between calving and the start of the breeding season, or perhaps they're just a little too thin to start cycling again. If 80% of them respond, actually, that's pretty good. A really talented, experienced AI technician will get about 70% of those to conceive to the first pass through the chute and when they're artificially inseminated. And so, if you're working with, say, 100 cows, 80% of them responding to synchronization, and the technician can get 70% of those to actually conceive, then you're looking at 56% of the cattle actually becoming pregnant to the first go-around of artificial insemination. And so I think it's important that you understand these principles so that you're not disappointed when you have the first AI program and 50 to 60% of the cattle are bred AI. It's the reason why you have a cleanup bull around to help get the other cows bred to, of course, have a calf next year and available to sell along with those good AI calves. Have a realistic expectation about your AI program as you're going into it, and I think that you'll find that it's still very, very rewarding in terms of improving genetics in your herd and yet not being disappointing because you didn't get 100% of them. We look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Starting to think about summer crops across Oklahoma, and we have Brian Arnall here to talk about planting dates for insurance reasons. And Brian, we're actually standing in a cornfield and we're past the planting date for insured corn crops right now.
Yeah, we're past insurance date for the corn crop, but we aren't past insurance date for soybeans, sorghum, sesame, and cotton production. But we are, I'm going to start with sorghum, we are kind of in that no man's land for sorghum. We can plant, and there will be people planting sorghum throughout the month of May, but this is the time, if you put sorghum seed in the ground, there's a higher risk because more than likely it's going to flower during the hottest and driest part of the month. So ideally, we'd like to see sorghum go in before May or after May.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with our weather this year, it's been wet in areas, it's been cool, so it's kept a lot of the planters out of the ground, and guys are wondering what to do right now.
Okay, and kind of the end of the sorghum season would be closer to June.
Yeah, you'd actually go back into the ground in June.
Right.
We stay away from May.
Right.
And get in for late planted sorghum back into June, and even the double crops after the wheat's out of the ground. You know, it will be an option for any of that acreage where wheat had to be cut due to freeze damage or hail damage to go in with a sorghum crop. But right now, OSU's recommendation is avoid planting during May, wait till the very first part of June, even the last couple days of May before you put that seed in the ground.
Okay, let's talk sesame. What are we looking at there?
Sesame has an optimum date of mid-May to plant, so we're still in great shape to put sesame in the ground. All the way up to about the first or second week of June, and then you go into a double crop situation also with sesame. Cotton production has very similar time frame. The ideal planting date for cotton in central Oklahoma is going to be middle of May, so we have plenty of time to get our cotton in the ground, but we're still behind the 8 ball as far as some people may say, just due to our soil temperatures and have to miss those rains.
Okay, and then of course soybeans. Let's talk soybeans.
Soybean, you know, I talked to Chad Gotze to confirm planting date on soybeans. He says right now, if you choose the right maturity group, we can put soybean in the ground until the 1st of June. Then you start looking at those quick varieties, those laid out, that come out quicker for the double crop planting situation. So the full season, go to about the 1st of June, but we have to be careful with maturity date.
Okay, now where should producers go to confirm those dates?
You know, there's the oilseed.okstate.edu has a great publication about soybean production. It's just the soybean production hand guide. There's also a very good sorghum production guide that can be available at your county extension office. If they don't have one, we can mail them to them to make sure those are available. And of course, when it comes to insurance dates, look at your RMA website to make sure you know the last planting date for your crop that you want to put in the ground.
Okay, Brian Arnall, thank you very much. And you can check out more information about those websites on our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
Over the past few weeks, Oklahoma wheat research has been in the spotlight as producers attended wheat field days and tours from Hammond to Randolet. Throughout the month of May, there will be more of these learning opportunities, but none bigger than the Lahoma Field Day on May 10th.
We start registration at 8:30, have coffee and donuts, and this year we'll have Congressman Frank Lucas here to kick off the field day with a few comments and find out what's going on in Washington. And then we'll head out with the trailers at, first stop is at 9:30. We'll load the trailers, go out to the field, and we have 13 stops set up, of which the producers can choose 5, depending on where their interest lies. And then at the end of the tour, at noon, we'll have a noon meal, and then producers can visit with each other and also the project leaders that were on the tour stops.
For a preview of some of the topics discussed on those stops, we turn to Extension Area Agronomist Roger Gribble.
Well, we've got all the varieties that are being planted in the state of Oklahoma. It gives producers a chance to look at them in a lined up fashion where they can kind of compare. The big ones would be maturity in this particular stop, as well as disease package. So it gives them a chance to see, should I put a foliar fungicide on, or should I use a variety that is resistant to those diseases that we're facing in northwest Oklahoma.
And we've got the major varieties they can choose from on one end, and as we get further down here, we've got a lot of research and developmental varieties. They can get an idea of what's coming as well.
Yeah. With Dr. Carver and Dr. Edwards working together, we get a chance that Dr. Carver will put some of his newer materials into Dr. Edwards' trials, so we kind of get an evaluation of those candidates before they're ever released. If producers watch closely and look at the numbering, they'll have that report, and when that number becomes a candidate cultivar and named, then they've already got an idea of what it's going to do in their particular part of the world.
Very good. Now, as we look around here, I mean, obviously this is a pretty interesting plot, but there are a lot of stops on this place, a lot of different wheat trials, and then also there's some canola and any other crops?
Well, we'll look at cover crops would be one that's getting a lot of play right now. I think if I was going to pick a stop for producers that I would want to go to would be the drilling fluid. A lot of oil and gas activity in northwest Oklahoma, and the drilling fluid stop is a pretty interesting one. That will be a good stop, and then dovetailed with that, Dr. Shannon Farrell, who's actually a lawyer, is going to discuss the lease agreement between the landowner and the applicator. And there's a lot of things that go into that lease discussion, and to have all the bases covered that you want covered, you draw it up in the lease. And I think that's going to be a tremendous stop.
All right, so now if you're a wheat producer, if you're canola, whatever you're doing in this part of the state, this is the place to go get all of that information and in all the different disciplines you need to be thinking about.
I think that's a good way to put it. I know that Kim Anderson will be here looking at wheat and corn push play. You know, there's a lot of things with corn that impacts wheat this time of year. But I would hope that we've got a diverse set of discussions that anybody would be interested in coming to listen to. And then Frank Lucas on top of that, I think it'll be a great day.
The North Central Oklahoma Research Station Wheat Tour will be held May 10th. The station is located on Highway 412, 1 mile west of Lahoma, Oklahoma. There is no charge for the event, but to help with a head count for the meal, call 580-237-7677 and let us know you're coming.
Hi, welcome to Shop Stop. Today we have a little tip on filling your air bubbles.
Typically what you have is you have like a Schrader valve, and you go to your air compressor and you put your Schrader valve on there, and you have to wait a long time for your air tank to fill up.
Another thing you can do is you can just take a small piece of hose and put 2 male fittings on it, and then clip one into here and then one into your compressor. Or you could go maybe a little bit further.
And then what we have here is just a needle valve with 2 male ends, and then you can connect them and connect that to your air compressor line and open your valve, shut it off, and you've got filled your air tank quickly.
So just a little tip for filling air tanks here on Shop Stop. We'll see you next week.
That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find our stories anytime on our website, sunup.okstate.edu. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Lyndall Stout. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.